Yeah, I said like that's a very good question, and I think many wives in this world have this kind of challenge in various shapes and forms. Okay, in this particular case, it's about uh, herself and her kids being verbally and physically abused by her unbelieving husband. Okay, so the reason why that is happening is precisely because your husband is not a believer. Okay, and for some reason, okay, the enemy is using that state of your husband to discourage you and to even possibly give up your faith. Okay, and so here is where we say that your attitude in all of these things is complete dependence on God. Okay, on your own, it's so easy to come up with a solution, right? Get a gun, shoot your husband, dead, period, right? Don't do that, okay? God, because you're a Christian, God tells you only one way to solve the problem. Be Christ-like, be humble, okay? What does that mean, okay? It's like this. This is what I've seen all this past 7 years that we have been teaching our people to become Christ-like, humble. Okay, we tell them, hey, always regard the other person as more important than yourself. How can I regard my husband who's more important than myself when he is verbally abusing or physically abusing us? Okay, hey, look. The reason why he's like that is something is going on in his heart or in his mind. Maybe, okay, the reason why he's like that is because he's not a Christian. And all the more, his interest is for him to know Christ. And he will only know Christ, listen, when he sees Christ in you by your behavior. Okay? How do you behave then? Very simple, okay? First of all, if the physical abuse continues, I recommend that you please find a way for you to be protected physically, okay? Because that is dangerous, okay? But if it's more of verbal abuse, okay, that you are experiencing, then you just commit to prayer and make sure that you know how to respond, not react. Because if you first of all talk to your children and gather your children and say, we love your dad, okay, and this is not an easy problem, and I know you're hurt. I am hurt, but your dad needs help, okay? And that's the reason why we need God in this situation. We need to humble ourselves even more. And then you pray to God, God, I'm going to show a Christ-like example to my husband. And in that sense, what are you doing? Listen, every time you tell God, God, I'm going to obey, I'm going to show the kind of Christ-like reaction to a very abusive husband, God will honor you and will be with you. Why? Because at that point, you become a discipler of your husband. Okay? What is a discipler? A discipler is one who models Christ-likeness to someone. And when you become a discipler, you model Christ-likeness to someone. Listen to me. God said, surely I am with you always, even to the end of the age. And if God is with you, believe me, okay? Trust me. Whatever anger, whatever ability of your husband to hurt you, God will be there to block it and to protect you. Okay? That is faith. That's faith. Now, there is a very clear Bible verse in 1 Peter chapter 3. What does it say? By the behavior of the wife, the husband will be able to convince that you are a Christian and therefore will even bring your husband to Christ. You yourself said it. Your husband is unbelieving. Okay? So the first thing that you should do is to pray that your husband becomes a believer. Because when your husband becomes a believer, he will change. Now, question is, why is he not a believer? I don't know. Maybe the reason for that is maybe triggered by you as well, ma'am. Okay? Maybe you have a certain behavior that triggers that, which is probably, sorry, I'm going to be careful. Maybe you are selfish too without you knowing it. Maybe you're not respectful without knowing it. Maybe you are not doing your role as a wife. And that's the reason why your husband is expressing his frustration or asserting himself by verbal or physical abuse. I mean, I am if I were your discipler, my wife and I will talk to you and find out how is it that you're behaving in such a way that you probably are triggering something. Maybe the best person to ask, okay, is your husband himself. When your husband is kind of in a good mood, you first of all you pray, God, I will model Christ likeness, humility to my husband, and please, I want my husband to see Christ, my meekness in me. Christ likeness is humility, so that one of these days he will be saved. So what do you do when he's kind of cool or in a good mood? You ask your husband, honey, how have I hurt you in such a way that I'd like to become the best wife for you? Okay, have I not been a good wife to you? That the reason why probably you're like this is because I have not been that kind of a wife. I don't know. I will have to process that. Okay, you will have to find a discipler or a person who can counsel you in that area, because more often than not, listen, God wants us to change first before we can ask God to change the other person. All right, I've experienced this time and again. God, please change my husband. God, please do something. And God has not been doing anything. In fact, things are getting worse. Okay, I mean, from simple verbal abuse, now it's physical abuse. What's happening? It's time to look at yourself and really ask that question. Am I a model of Christ-likeness, humility to my husband? And then, next, talk to your children. Get your children aligned with you, okay? Share the gospel with your children. Parents or fathers, they have soft spot to the children. And the reason why probably sometimes they go to the verbal or physical abuse was probably because they really are frustrated with you as a wife. I'm not saying that you are, but a lot of times just look at yourself in the mirror, find out what's wrong with you, and then get your discipler to assess: am I really a good wife? Am I submissive? Am I respectful? Do I really serve my husband, and I show respect to my husband to a point where my husband will really see that I am really a helpmate and a supporter? Or does my husband see that I am not really there for him? And then your discipler will say, if you don't mind my telling you, maybe you should do this and you should do that. See, what I'm trying to say is this: examine yourself, trust that God will be with you when you do the difficult part. You just commit and model Christ likeness, and God will support you, God will protect you, and God will really make you experience God will cause all things to work together for good. And that to me is a good testimony already in and by itself. Okay? Now, to the others, your situation may be different. Okay? It may be not talking, it may be not giving the money or not dating you. The same, okay, in various shapes and form. Be the wife that the husband will see as a respectful, Christ-like husband, and you will see wonderful things happening in your marriage and in your family. That's what the world will believe. Okay. In other words, I keep getting this follow-up question. Pastor Danny, where do you draw the line? Okay. Here is where I keep saying Jesus did not draw the line. Okay. And it requires a lot of faith. And remember, look at this. When you humble yourself, verse 9 of Philippians chapter 2 says, for this reason, God highly exalted him. Okay? God will exalt you. God will protect you. And believe me, okay? Every time, it's you see, when you draw the line, you say, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to give him a chance to abuse me. You see, that is not complete surrender. But you see, when every time we counsel people in that area, we say, hey, you pray first. Okay? You pray first, okay? That your mindset is for you to disciple, model Christ-likeness to your husband. And when that happens, the faithfulness of God will come in. And believe me, I've seen it many times. You think you'll be abused because your husband will see that you are weak and therefore will abuse you even more. No. In fact, the exact opposite happens. Okay? Because you did not draw the line. The only way that you are going to draw the line is, to protect your children and yourself physically. Okay, if your husband is already like crazy holding a gun, and I think you should call for a protection from the police, etc., etc., to really not harm you. But when it comes to that it's just happening every now and then, I would really recommend that you trust God, because God will protect you if your heart is really the right kind of heart that will depend on God. Okay, I mean, I am an extreme person. Because many times, if you draw the line, sometimes you would say, I will not. You will not be able to communicate the right message. Okay, and Satan will even use that even more. But if between you and God, you say, God, I completely surrender. I know you'll protect me and my children. I will empty myself. I am really, really desperate in you saving my husband, and this is my prayer. Okay, I will turn the other cheek. Okay, but God, please make him understand, make him touch him even now, so that the worst that I expect is not going to happen. More often than not, believe me, God is faithful to keep his promise.